Hey guys, it's Panther, and now that patch 9.13 has been out for a little bit, I wanted to give you guys my top 5 champions for solo queue on this patch. Now this does not reflect the champions that are the best overall, just the champions that are best at solo carrying the game without any outside help. Before we get too far in, have you checked out our website, GameLeap.com yet? It has hundreds of challenger guides that are sorted into a quick and easy to use course system. We have courses on both the 5 fundamental roles as well as champion specific courses, so go check that out if it interests you. Now, without further ado, my top 5 champions for solo carrying this patch. Now, at the number 5 spot, we're going to have Lux. Now, this is either mid lane Lux or support Lux. It doesn't really matter which, both are very, very good. I'm going to be focusing on mid lane Lux since it is better for solo carrying though. Now this does not mean that support Lux is not good, quite the opposite in fact. Support Lux might be the best support in the entire game right now. However, support is a much harder role to solo carry from and requires a lot of experience in order to do so. Typically solo carrying on support is less about the champion that you're playing and more about how you play the game. That is vision control, when you roam, stuff like that. Now, back to Lux and why she is so good at solo carrying right now. You see, Lux offers everything that you could possibly want in a control mage. She's very long range, which means that she's able to play the lane very, very safely, far away from creeps, while still being able to CS really well. Once you have Lost Chapter, her mana problems are pretty much non-existent, which means you're able to poke and CS as much as you want without having to recall a lot or be in need of blue buff. Once you upgrade to a Ludens, you are still going to be wanting to be taking blues whenever possible though, because you will be losing that passive that regens your mana upon leveling up. She also has very, very good pick potential with her Q. This allows her to be able to skirmish in the jungle relatively safely. With no creeps to hide behind in the jungle, you're able to exert a much higher zone of control than you would in a lane. This means that Lux is currently strong both inside of lane, where she can shove to tower and siege, and in the jungle, where she can look to pick out enemy champions and burst them down during her CC. However, her strengths as a control mage don't stop there. She also has very, very strong defensive capabilities for both her and her team. Lux's W, if used properly, can shield up to an entire team, which is huge, especially for late game fights. It's not a small shield either, it's actually quite a large shield, and it refreshes upon returning. As a result, when played properly, Lux might be one of the strongest mages in the entire game right now. All of these things do extend to support Lux as well, but she does just deal a lot less damage in that role, and that's why I say it's more of a mid lane Lux that can solo carry as opposed to support Lux that can solo carry. As support Lux, your main goal is just to provide as much utility for the team as possible. As a result, support Lux will just in general be more dependent on her team than mid lane Lux would be. Now at the number 4 spot, we're going to have Caixa. Now, while there might be more well-rounded ADCs, say for example Sivir or Jinx, I think Caixa is the best ADC for solo carrying currently. This is because Caixa is able to output such high amounts of damage while remaining relatively safe. She's also not super reliant on a team in order for this to be true. Her ultimate gives her so much versatility in a team fight as well. You can either peel back with it or dive the enemy backline. With the current Manamune build, she scales like an absolute monster and is able to evolve all 3 of her spells. This means that Caisa's late game is just insanely potent. This build also allows her to opt into a very, very defensive build path if needed. You're able to itemize items like Zhonya's, GA, Phantom Dancer without having to go out of your way and lower your damage. She can itemize for either physical damage or magic damage if needed, which as a result allows her to fit into any team comp you could possibly imagine. She also doesn't struggle to survive nearly as much as other ADCs would into team comps with a lot of assassins in them. As a result, the sky is about the limit when it comes to Caixa. If you're able to make the most out of this champion and her kit, you're able to carry almost any game entirely solo. The only reason that she's not higher up on this list is because as an ADC, you are a little bit reliant on your support as far as the lane phase goes. Occasionally you will have games where it's just out of your control and your support doesn't play well enough to carry. Coming in at my number 3 slot, we're going to have Mordekaiser. Now, Mordekaiser is still very new, and maybe it's too early to say this, but personally, I think that Mordekaiser is one of the best champions to solo carry on, regardless of whether you're playing at top lane or mid lane. Maybe the reason behind this is because of people having a lack of experience playing against the new Mordekaiser, but even if this is the case, it will stay that way for at least a few patches, so definitely try to pick him up if he's something you're interested in playing. Mordekaiser is just so well-rounded as a champion. He has wave clear, defensive tools, sustain, CC, and he can even force a 1v1 in any situation with his ultimate. This means that he's especially good at turning 1v2s as a top laner, something that a lot of champions just aren't able to do. This means that if you're able to get a lead on Mordekaiser, you can force 3 people to come to you. However, unlike other champions where this is the case, say Tryndamere or Fiora, you're also able to teamfight insanely well. In almost any teamfight, you're able to isolate whatever target it is that you want and just take them into the Shadow Realm and beat them down. This means that even if your team isn't doing all that well, you can eliminate one of the enemy players from a teamfight, effectively making it a 5v4. Mordekaiser is definitely a pick that I will be continuing to observe to see if he gets weaker or stronger as people learn to play and play against him. For now, I would definitely say if you're able to pick him up quickly that you should try him out and see how you like him. Alright, moving on to the number 2 spot, we have Irelia. Now, I know we like to meme a lot about better nerf Irelia, and I also know that she's received a lot of nerfs in the past. And as a result, I might get a lot of hate for putting her this far up the list. None of these nerfs, however, has changed the fact that the best Irelia players are seeing absurd amounts of success on the champion, and she has a strong presence in the competitive scene still. Irelia is another one of those champions that just offers everything that you could possibly ever want. Just to start off, her base stats are very strong, allowing her to play the early game very, very aggressively. While she does lose to some raw stat check champions like Trundle or Darius in the early game, it's vastly not an issue for her as she can just play the lane safely if she needs to. Her mobility in the laning phase makes her very, very hard to gank if she plays it well, using resets on creeps. She also has the potential to turn a 1v2 due to the fact that all of her abilities are AoE damage. She can also fill any niche that your team might need. She can teamfight, she can split, she can do objectives relatively quickly, she can pick. Any of these things, if you need her, she can definitely do it. Overall, she's just such a good champion for both solo carrying and solo queue. And if we look at players like TF Blade or Lighter, we can definitely see that that is the case. Now, moving on to the moment you've all been waiting for, our number 1 solo carry pick is Hecarim. Hecarim has been insanely strong for a long time now, and this patch is no exception. You can play him both top lane and in jungle, however, jungle is by far the better place to be playing him. His clear is one of the fastest in the game, and he's able to full clear without any sustain issues. He can also perform a gank after his clear and is almost uncontestable at the Scuttle Crab. If you're able to master Hecarim, you're able to full clear the jungle, take both Scuttle Crabs, and get a few ganks off just on your first clear. He is by far the hardest snowballing champion in the game, and once you start his snowball, it's pretty hard to stop it. He has the added benefit of being able to abuse Conqueror and Bruiser items, making him almost unstoppable. The only downside to Hecarim is his ban rate is quite high, so you might not be able to get him as much as you want. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend picking up Hecarim as your go-to jungler. And if you're looking for tips on how you can improve your jungle Hecarim gameplay, make sure to check out our guide on him. I talk much more on jungle Hecarim in that guide, his strengths, his weaknesses, his runes, his clears, so if it's something that you're looking to pick up, definitely check it out. That about does it for today's video on the top 5 solo carry picks for patch 9.13. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out our website at GameLeap.com. There we have hundreds of guides done by challenger players organized into a very simple to use course system. We have courses on the 5 fundamental lanes as well as champion-specific courses, and we're constantly making new courses on new champions. So if you really want to stay up to date, go ahead and check us out there as well. That does it for today's video. As usual, I hope you learned something valuable, and I will see you in the next one.